Another issue that can come up with health insurance is adverse selection. And adverse selection was a very big deal with the Affordable Care Act when they had the marketplace, the exchanges that were set up. And what happened there and why the premiums went up as high as they did, and what I'm sure you heard a lot about, was because of adverse selection. So let's take a look at that. So let's say we have our insurance pool here, and let's just cut it down to 20 people. Now, when we talked before, we said that everyone had an equal chance of getting sick and having, we're going to stay with that $10,000 risk, or that $10,000 cost if they get sick. Now, let's just say that everyone's doesn't have the same. So now, let's say that some people have a 0.5%, 0.5% risk of getting sick. And so 0.5 times 50 is, or sorry, 0.5 times $10,000 is an expected value of 50. Okay. Some have a 1% chance, and so the 1 times 10,000 is $100. And let's say some have a 1.5% chance, and so 1.5% times 10,000 is 150. So the insurance company, they look at all this, okay, and they say, all right, well, we expect to pay out $2,000. Right. So based on these people that we expect to cover, we're going to pay $2,000 out. Right. There's 20 people covered, and so to charge a fair premium, it's going to be $100. So that's what they do. They go out and charge everybody. They charge $100. Well, now some of these people might say this. All right, well, wait a second. So for example, Aaliyah only expects to pay $50. It's going to cost her $100 to buy the insurance. She said, well, wait a second. I'm a healthy person. It's going to cost me double to buy insurance than I actually expect to pay. For that, it's not really worth it to me. It's not worth it for me to pay this extra money. So she'll say, no, you know what, I won't. So she won't buy it. Okay, and neither will Abigail. So all these people that have that 50%, they won't buy it. Okay, so they are all just not going to do it. Okay. So they expect it. If we go over here, so they expect it to pay out $2,000 with 20 people, and they collected a fair premium of $100. But in reality, because those people dropped out, okay, they actually paid $1,750 and covered 15 people. All right. Now, it doesn't say here, but so, you know, if they paid out $1,750, now only 15 people collected, so 15 people, they charged $100, and so they collected $1,500 for their insurance premium, or through premiums, but they paid out $1,750. So they should have charged $117. So they say, all right, well, wait a second. Now we need to adjust. We lost money here, and so they say, look, we expect to pay, you know, based on last year, $1,750. All right. There's 15 people that are covered. All right. So now we're going to charge $17. All right. Whoops. All right. So that's the amount that they charge. All right. Well, now you have all these people that are saying, okay, well, wait a second. I only expect to pay, Aiden, for example, only expects to pay $100. It's going to cost $117. They raised my premiums. They're going up too high. I'm not that sick. So now for Aiden, while it was worth it for him to buy it when it was $100, it now isn't necessarily. So now let's say that some of these people, the 1% people, decide not to buy it. So now the insurance company only had 8 people buy in. So if they had 8 people buy in and paid $117, they collected $936. They paid $1,050. So they again lost money. So again, they're going to have to raise their rates. And this is an ongoing process. They're going to continue to have to raise their rates. And as they do, more people would drop out. Now, in large insurance plans, this really isn't an issue. Okay? But in smaller ones, like with the marketplace, this was an issue. Now, it's called adverse selection for a reason. So, who do insurance companies want to buy their insurance? Healthy people, because they don't have to pay out that much for them. Who don't they want to buy it? Sick people, because they have to pay out more for them. But in reality, the opposite happens. Okay? They want the people that do buy it are sick people, or elderly, or at risk, while healthy, younger individuals don't. This is what happened with a lot of those marketplace plans. For a lot of people, now keep in mind that a lot of people didn't have insurance. Okay? And so, if they didn't buy it, they still had to pay the fine, the penalty, whatever you want to call it. And when this happened, okay, the people say, look, the fine is relatively low, I'm not going to do it. So basically, not enough healthy people did it. Okay? They were healthy, they said, I'll pay the small fine instead. But because of that, while they expected a group that it was a good mix of healthy versus non-healthy, what happened was because of this adverse selection, they had a larger group of unhealthy. And so because of that, they paid out more than they anticipated. They had to raise their rates up, and people were dropping. They had to keep raising them. And so this was an ongoing process, which was a problem. So that's adverse selection. Moral hazard is another issue when it comes to healthcare, and this is a big one. So we've talked about rising healthcare costs, and earlier on in the semester we connected the out-of-pocket versus the rising amounts. Here's the problem. People's behavior, what moral hazard is basically, it's when people's behavior is changing because they have insurance. And so for healthcare, because these people have insurance, they don't have to pay the same high amount. So they're more likely to go out there and go to the doctor because they're not paying the full amount. So let's look at an example here. So here we have an example, and let's just say that this is doctor's visits, and this is the demand to go to the doctor. Okay. Now keep in mind that demand is derived from willingness to pay. So the demand says at each quantity, how much are people willing to pay? Now P0 here, this is the actual cost to go to the doctor. And so at that amount, people are willing to pay. It's worth it to them to go Q0 times the doctor. Okay? But because they have insurance, it's not costing them that. All that it's costing them is really their copay. Okay? The amount out of pocket they have to pay when they go there. And so they go and they're only paying PI. Now at that lower price with our downward sloping demand, at PI, they actually demand QI units. And so this going from Q0 to QI, that's moral hazard. And so what has happened over time is that as people have been paying less and less out of pocket, there's been more overuse, in essence, based on their demand. And so as prices gone down, people say, look, now it's worth it for me to go more this time, so now I'll go. And so what happened? Demand was going up, and so doctors and hospitals were charging more, and this continued. Now the moral hazard effect is going to get greater as demand becomes more elastic, okay? As the demand is more responsive to price changes. So here at D1, where we have more inelastic demand, as we go from P0 to PI, our quantity goes from Q0 to QI, so it goes up by a little bit. If, however, we're at demand 2 with elastic demand, you see us going from Q0 up to Q2, so you see a larger amount. So why is this a problem? Well, we get what is called welfare loss. And welfare loss is when occurs when we're consuming an inefficient amount. Now, in this range here, the moral hazard that we identified, going from Q0 to QI, which is the moral hazard amount, well, these amounts, right, the actual amount that's getting paid, the P1, that's what the doctor is getting, is greater than what they were willing to pay, which is the demand. And so society as a whole ends up being worse off because more services are being consumed that are economically desirable. And this is a big, big issue. And basically what is happening, according to the theory, is that with insurance, people are consuming more than they otherwise would. They're going to the doctor and the hospital when they normally would not. And so this creates welfare loss. It creates overuse. It pushes up prices more. And so it's really a spiral with it. And it's a very, very big issue when it comes to insurance.